I think men, they need to be willing to dialogue about mental health issues that concern them. Men need to recognize these things. And at the same time, men should not allow themselves to be bogged down by tradition where we are trying to, society has said for so many years that a man should man up and they should not cry. There is no way we can process trauma if we don't talk about it and if we are not ready to cry about it.
What are the signs ha ke na le rre ke batla go notice gore motho o wa rre o wa kana partner rame kana my employee kana my friend is traumatized?
With men, the obvious signs, there are many, but let me go for the obvious ones. Anger, irritability. Some men will pick violence. Some men who are traumatized are going to abuse substance. And the reason why it will be anger, irritability, and abusing substance is because men don't like to talk. We must first of all understand or identify a trauma response when somebody gives it. And then the kind of anger you exert to a fight for a cup or a charger, it tells me that it's a trauma response. Become trauma informed so that you can identify trauma when it happens, when you see it happening.
Leina la me ke Boitumelo Keoagile go tswa ko kgaolong ya Borwa ke tswa ko Kanye. Ke mme ke motsadi and ke na le podcast e bidiwang Blossom with Boy. Gompieno ke na le moeng wa tlotla o eleng gore he's a trauma counselor re Kingdom Kebaitse. And gompieno re tla be re bua ka gore trauma ke eng. Re tla be also re focus mo goreng it's International Mental Health Month for Men and what does it mean. And also re mo kgweding e leng gore re celebrate the Father's Day. So re bua ka dilo tse tharo tse leng gore gantsi in our setups we normally don't talk much about it or try to raise awareness to educate men or empower them in such topics. So welcome Re Kebaitse.
Thank you so much for having me, Boy.
Erra. Do you mind telling us in detail who you are, what you do?
Yeah. Well, Kingdom, he's a trauma counselor, founder of the Trauma Counseling Center. So as trauma counselors, we deal with pain, emotional and psychological pain. My background is in mental health. I used to work for the government, and then I took a journey to study mental health. Then during COVID, I started the Trauma Counseling Center. And the rest is history. We're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you started during the COVID times.
Why
that career move specifically?
I think it's... I had to deal with my own pain. That when I was a child, I went through trauma. Well, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Until later on in life, I realized that if I'm to function as a human being, as a man, I need to go back to that little boy and allow him to heal. And then, that's how I started my journey of healing. There's an American therapist who helped me through the process. Then after dealing with him, it was virtual, obviously, and still, this was during COVID.
Okay.
I went on a journey to now study mental health. And then once I was done with that, I established the Trauma Counseling Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
I discovered you last year when I was preparing for my event, mostly this year it was dealing with the healing our wounds.
Yeah.
And you were one of the guests to event
Oh, yes.
So this time around, last year ka eletsa go dira an event, a similar event for men, but unfortunately I think our community they are not ready for such an engagement. Kana gongwe nne ba feel gore they don't want it. It's I don't know what the resistance was about. So I think this year I thought, maybe if I could package the message in a podcast kanankare a recording e leng gore it will be just available to them without having them to leave the home or their workplace. Maybe it will communicate to them. So Rre Kebaitse, to you, what is trauma? Sentle hela ha mme mongwe gongwe, let's say motsadi, a 65-year-old a le ko ka Chikau a bo tlhola utlwa le go trauma a batla go itse gore trauma keng. What is trauma in simple terms?
Trauma, to summarize it, it's an emotional wound. Ke ntho. Ntho e mo maikutlong. And trauma being a wound, it affects your soul. Your soul, we're talking about your mind, we're talking about your will, we're talking about your emotions. So this wound, emotional, is connected to events. It's connected to terrible events. People experience trauma in marriage. They experience trauma in childhood. They experience trauma in the workplace. Trauma can manifest as gender-based violence. It can manifest as rape and molestation. It can manifest as grief when a loved one dies. So it's very broad. So I'd like to qualify to say the events can help us to sort of just label or identify the trauma, but the emotional pressure that we feel because of that incident, that is where the trauma is. So we're interested in the emotional pressure. Yes.
Okay. I'm interested more in discussing trauma.
Yes.
Yes. What, according to you, what do you think a healthy man, kanankare a traumatized man, looks like? And does it show, kana e kgona go ipontsha on his daily activities? Kana what are the signs ha ke na le rre ke batla go notice gore motho o wa rre o kana partner rame kana my employee kana my friend is traumatized?
With men, the obvious signs, there are many, but let me go for the obvious ones. Anger, irritability. Some men will pick violence. Some men who are traumatized are going to abuse substance. And the reason why it will be anger, irritability, and abusing substance is because men don't like to talk. When men are traumatized, they become avoidant to confront their traumas. They would rather occupy themselves with being busy, with sport, with work, with just things that keep their mind off the trauma. So when a man is traumatized, irritable, angry, yes, they don't have the liberty to just talk about stuff. They are likely to snap, as opposed to be conversational.
Okay. Ka gore re etse tlhoko gore borre ba na le kanankare such behavior. Nna le nna as a partner kana somebody living with motho on daily basis, I should be maybe aware enough to identify kana to spot such behavior. In terms of support, because at times we don't want to dwell much on the behavior. We are trying to find corrective ways to help the person, kana the male who is traumatized. According to na motho e leng gore ke na leng, how can you kana nka notice nka equip what is needed for me to know, like in terms of, I don't know specific way to put it, where we tend to miss a traumatized person more in our journey, be it my husband, be it my friend, kana my employee.
Yes.
What ke untsu bua di ka itse leng gore motho o ka itshupa ka tsone. Motho a rre ga se motho e leng gore gantsi he's quick to seek for help.
Yes.
And as a leader, kanankare, a caretaker, kana a partner, what is the most sensitive way to support the person who is traumatized without coming across as judgmental or maybe coming across as ke mokgoba? Because like you were saying earlier, trauma ke the events tse e leng gore the unfortunate kana nka re wound e leng gore e creategile. Unfortunately, we didn't ask for it, but we have to be accountable for it.
Yes.
So now ha ke go supporta, what tools can I give motho o nang le trauma kana o santseng a navigate that trauma kana yeah?
I think it's a very, very important question that you ask. It's loaded in that we must first of all understand or identify a trauma response when somebody gives it. Ke tle ke re ha gongwe ha ke lwela kopi le wena, and then the kind of anger you exert to a fight for a cup or a charger, it tells me that it's a trauma response. I did say that men can be avoidant, that sometimes they don't like to talk about their feelings. They don't like to confront their emotions. Sometimes it's good to know when it's a good time to approach them, to talk. But being a trauma counselor, dealing with married people and people who are dating a lot of times, I've discovered that we have a problem also with how we communicate. That the way we communicate with each other does not bring solution. Sometimes it brings conflict. That I can talk to you. My message leaves me as A. It reaches you as B. And then I say to you, no, I didn't say B. I said A. But you continue to respond as B. So I'm trying to say sometimes when we are arguing or we're having a discussion with somebody who's traumatized, sometimes we are not even talking to the core human being. We are talking to a soul fragment. And when we realize in those moments that we are not talking to the core human being, we must be ready to exercise empathy and sympathy, and we must use so much wisdom. You did speak well when you said, how do you talk to this person and help them to not feel that maybe you are attacking them? It's when we are able to separate a problem from the person. The problem is sometimes when we talk to people, we address a problem and at the same time assassinate their character. We are not able to separate an issue from the person. So usually people will become defensive, especially people who are traumatized. They'll become defensive. They'll blow up. They'll blow things out of proportion. However, if let me give a simple example, although I'm going to sound like I'm digressing a bit. Let's say it's a couple and the gentleman, for example, keeps coming home late. The issue here is, okay, baby, you keep coming home late. Why are you late? Is there traffic? Are you leaving home? Are you leaving the office late? Did you pass through the gas station? This is exploring possibilities of why there's a problem. As opposed to you are coming home late. That means you're a bad person. That means you're womanizing. That means that
accusations.
It's accusations and character assassination. And then suddenly we're in a conflict. Now you can imagine accusing somebody who has that track record of trauma. You're going to get a trauma response. So I'm saying part of how we approach these people, we need to go and study the most effective way to address issues without sounding like we are attacking the character, but addressing the real issue, which is the trauma. Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying that because I've made an observation. Most failed relationships,
Yeah.
be it friendships, marriages, kana ko ditirong, because le gone ko ditirong go a pala, because trauma is everywhere.
Yes.
And COVID has really shown us gore we are a traumatized nation.
Yes.
And ke ne ke batla go itse gore ha o le re kana nka re ke le tsala ya gago ke le Boitumelo,
Yeah.
kana ke le your partner, ke na le wena ke tshela le wena,
Yes.
as leaders nna ke kana nkare as somebody who eleng gore o observant and has been traumatized. Mind you, I have been traumatized and I'm still dealing with my trauma. And ke etse tlhoko gore for us to support batho ba eleng gore ba traumatized, ke to listen more with understanding and with sympathy and empathy, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And motho a teng ha o mo have those kind of create an environment which may seem like a lot of work, but if you do, it can yield so much result for everyone.
Yes.
So ke ne ke batla go itse gore how do I create such an environment ke le motho eleng gore I'm not aware of trauma, what it gore trauma ke eng, ke create a young environment for motho eleng gore o traumatized. And go tsweng ho ha ke batla go raise a question e leng gore like you were saying earlier ke a bobedi eo, kana you want me to allow answer it step by step?
Maybe let me let me unpack it before I forget. I think it goes with first with education. Become trauma informed so that you can identify trauma when it happens, when you see it happening. But without the education, you'll miss it. You might take things personal and think this person is just aggressive and rude and arrogant, or maybe they're just a narcissist. So the first thing would be to educate yourself about somebody who's traumatized. What are the signs? What are the telltale signs? Khandile, when I was talking to you, I was just giving you the ones that are obvious for men. When we expand even more, there's that extreme fear, anxiety, that hopelessness, that helplessness. People who are traumatized, they become withdrawn. They like to move away a little bit from the crowd, which is why, for example, in the marketplace, people who are dealing with trauma, they'll have a lot of issues with absenteeism from work, sick leaves. Sometimes they're hiding trauma behind all of that. Then you have a sign. But we need to become trauma informed at family level and even in the marketplace. We need leaders who are trauma informed. We need teams who are trauma informed so that we know the difference between a disciplinary issue and a mental health issue when it manifests in the workplace.
Trauma can come even during adulthood.
Yeah,
I understand there's childhood trauma, then
Yes.
there's adulthood trauma. Some of the adulthood trauma can be at work. And as an employer, what are we, from a trauma counselor's perspective,
Yes.
what can you recommend for employers to do to support or create an environment it can support somebody who is traumatized, can prevent, because prevention is always better than cure.
Yes.
And also, again, it can be costly to try to correct something se leng gore kana environment e leng gore setse e trigger a trauma mo bathong. Yeah, so how can you nkare o ka advise the employer jang, kana what are the tools tse leng gore you can advise for organizations to adopt, also to help them to reduce the cost tsa bone, because e kgona go escalate bill ya healthcare. So yeah, can you dissect into that?
Yes. So I was talking about I was talking about being trauma informed. So I think what we need to do in the marketplace is we need to have I think a lot of companies right now, they're focusing much on corporate team building. They're kicking the ball too much. When are we going to have a corporate team healing where we can go into a department, find out what the issues are in that department, help everybody in the department to heal, maybe by a group therapy, and even individual therapy, and even have workshops for that organization, or even teach that particular department. Because when there's trauma that's going on in the workplace, in the department, people become disgruntled. There's going to be a lot of gossip. There's going to be a lot of backbiting. So you need to be able to partner with a mental health specialist or organization to come in, sit in with the team and say, guys, what are the pains here? If I can give you typical pains for leaders sometimes they supervise people that they don't like. Leaders sometimes will be doubted. Leaders sometimes have to be strong for everybody, whereas they might have their own trauma that has not been addressed. So it is important to have these partnerships with mental health specialists, and it is important that every now and then there's a refresher. Same way we take cars to service. Yeah, why not service your stuff and make sure that emotionally and psychologically they're in the right place, they communicate effectively, and they can deliver. Yeah.
That yone we buang ya go service koloi o e tshwantshanya le motho. It's very important because we tend to leave our emotional side ko morago.
Yeah.
And now I think throughout my journey, I've seen the importance of taking care of your emotional side, because la ha o ka nna le madi kana wa rutega kana wa reng ha mental kana nkare your emotional well-being e le ko tlase ga gona sepe se se ka tswellang madi a wa go a bona e se sepe ebile o ka tsamaya wa neela batho. So we need to create a balance e leng gore it will help us to get fulfilled in life and be whole and be excited about life again. Yes. So in summary, more topicing ya trauma, I would like you to speak to men gore encourage them, because I think it's badly resistant to want to seek for help.
Yes.
And also they still, due to cultural backgrounds and the stereotypes, ba iphitlha and e hella ile bone ba ileng gore go ba ema ka ha mosing khantele ba ipola khantele ba bola bana ba bone di-partnera tsa bone sentle kana gongwe o ka ra motswana wa rre ko lapeng o reng to try to want to help them gore ba eme ka dinao ba itwele kana nkare ba lwele family ya bone kana ba lwele community ya bone. What is it that they can do to help overcome the trauma that they're facing, kana any mental health challenges that they're facing?
I think men, they need to be willing to dialogue about mental health issues that concern them. And not only them, their wives, their children. They are like the head in the home. They're leading. They set the tone. So it's worth to sort of know and recognize patterns and how what can I say? Patterns and the anatomy of trauma right from childhood to adulthood, and how trauma can show up from the home into the workplace or from the workplace back into the home. Men need to recognize these things. And at the same time, men should not allow themselves to be bogged down by tradition, where we are trying to, society has said for so many years that a man should man up and they should not cry. There is no way we can process trauma if we don't talk about it and if we are not ready to cry about it. Yeah. I think in the last 2 weeks, there's 2 families that I was dealing with. They had lost loved ones. And fortunately for me, the whole family had come. There were men there and they allowed themselves to talk about their pain. They allowed themselves to cry about it. So I think men should be, or they should allow themselves to open up about their pain. They shouldn't see it as a weakness. It's a strength in the face of what we're going through right now, where men they can commit suicide, they can murder their wives, they can kill their children. It would have been better for you to learn to talk, confront your fears, your anxieties, that depression, that trauma. It would have been better for you to learn to do that so that you process pain. You know, one of the things that we don't even understand is that emotions are like energy. It's like energy that's flowing around your body. So when you're traumatized, you have a lot of these negative emotions that are moving around your body. And when we do trauma sessions, what we're trying to do, we're trying to drop that energy. These are things that men need to be informed of, to say, when you have a lot of anger, it means there's a lot of energy that's moving in your body, and it comes from where? From trauma, from pain that has never been dealt with. So let men talk about it, let men cry, yes, and let men not be avoidant and try to be busy with stuff. Let them confront their pain. Yeah.
I think hela normally, kind of naturally, we are not only men, our culture is very avoidant.
Yeah.
Ha go na le issue, we don't talk about it.
Yes.
But like ntse re bua yana, it gore communication, it really made me if you communicate, let's say we are both partners, if you can what gongwe se se go setang off, I will be aware nako tse dingwe I'll be in a space to accommodate you and actually support you and say, hey, there's at times motho o tlhokagela gore o notice gore today it's not a good day for me, and then offer that grace for them. So tota hela trauma na hela ke ntse ke with my journey, it needs for us to offer one another grace.
Yes.
And just be compassionate. And you being compassionate, you can save a life.
True.
Or you will never know gore motho o mongwe o holdile on for how long. So you being compassionate and offering a helping hand or creating a space for somebody just to maybe to cry or maybe to just vulnerably say, hey, ko lapeng hware mosadi nare. It's helping go a thusa. And crying, we are not saying re batla go bona borre ba le wiki ba ititaganya. We've noticed gore you containing yourself, it's not working out, it's actually destroying your lives. Go kgona go heartbreaker o bona gongwe a good motho e leng gore go gongwe a ke re itlhele re tsa gore intellectual ke yone e supang gore motho, you know, have it all sorted out in life. O tla bo utlwa gote lawyer o bolaile partnera gagwe, and go gongwe ha o re o checka his track record in terms of behavior ka hantseng ba tshela ka teng, wa go itlhala le gore o ntse le gore motho wa modimo gongwe o sala nna traumatized a le 15, o ntse a iphitlha and ha kgone go bua, and then ha na 35 maybe a kopana le trigger e leng gore he lost control, he couldn't talk to anyone because ga re create culture e leng gore we can talk, we can vulnerably share our fears and our weaknesses. So tota hela it really helped us to learn to know how to communicate authentically, and also hela to with respect as well, mutual respect ke so se leng gore gape se kgona go thusa go gongwe ha ke bona gore you are not in a good space, especially when you are aware gore motho o santsa le mo journey ya gore avoid go nna lo kana go nna o ntse re ke itepatepanya lo wena nako tse dingwe we have to to humble ourselves
Yes.
and say hey motho ga khone, and it doesn't really kill to me to reduce myself to gore ke go offer a space sa gore o khone gore o heal.
Yeah.
So
you know, one of the things that will shock you about emotions, I can't it's like we are from a society or a culture where we don't like to confront emotions. We don't like to talk about stuff. An uncle can rape a niece, and then the family tries to cover it up because they are more concerned about the reputation of the family as opposed to allowing everybody to heal. The thing with emotions is the more we suppress them, correct, the more you suppress a negative emotion is the more it grows.
The bigger it becomes.
That is what we are missing as a lesson. The more we suppress negative emotions is the more they grow. So I think we need to really overcome the stereotypes. We need to come out and talk about things. I've been in situations at the trauma counseling center where a young girl says, you know, I got molested and I couldn't speak out for so many years because I was trying to save Lenyalo Lacha, my uncle. I sometimes I would speak who's now 40 years old. He's a boss, he's a leader in his organization. He brings to my attention, when I was a 7-year-old, a neighbor molested me. It was a lady, and I've never spoken about it. It's only now that I sit down with a professional and I'm open. And I've noticed that because of that childhood experience, generally, I'm somebody who's very angry with women. So there's pain that was not confronted from a very, very tender age. And now in the marketplace and everywhere, this person is angry with women. You understand? So we must understand, as long as trauma has happened, even if you are 3 years old or 6 years old, the wound is there. If you have never spoken about it, if you have never given yourself the opportunity to sit with somebody or a professional to process the pain, it's there. One of the things also that I, as we wrap up the conversation on trauma, that I want to talk about is that trauma fragments the soul. When we go through it, we are broken. And when we are broken, there's a part of us that goes into another dimension. If a young lady, of which is plenty of them, they can experience rape or molestation at a young age from a neighbor or from a family member, if they go through that, their soul breaks. And one day they are a grown woman, they are married, they are a corporate girl, and they are struggling relationally in their marriage. They are struggling relationally at work. And how we help them to be a better person, we have to go back and heal that 7-year-old, that 8-year-old who experienced rape and molestation. Then you'll see relationally there'll be a better wife. At work, there'll be a better colleague. And I'm trying to bring to the attention of people that sometimes we think we are arguing with a young man. We think we are arguing with a colleague, a woman, with a man. Sometimes we're just arguing with a soul fragment. Sometimes you experience a colleague, they talk to you and they blow things out of proportion. They have experienced trauma in previous companies, and when they spoke to you on an issue, you triggered something that you knew nothing about. And then suddenly you are in war that you ask yourself, what is going on? You're arguing with a soul fragment of somebody who experienced pain in another business, never dealt with it, came with it to the other company. And here we are having another interesting fight. So these are deep issues. I thought I should just throw in a few more explanations here.
Or just mirroring. I think I wish we could talk about mirroring of experiences.
Yeah.
You can, like, for instance, think you've overcome something.
Yes.
Then along the way, you get exposed to an environment. It mirrors where you come from, and then it may trigger a behavior. What was that? So at times, like I was saying, let's be healthy, kana nkare are created environment tse leng gore we don't want to heal from, because ga o kitla o itse motho o mongwe gore o tla ka eng. And most of us in a black community, everybody is kana nkare healing from something. So tota hela, let us be sensitive enough to understand gore kore ha ke ka mostly ha ke ka bua lentswe le ha le ka ke ka le tewa a ke ka le rata wa bona. So I think if we put ourselves in other people's shoes and then be compassionate and then exercise empathy a lot, we could change the narrative in terms of behavior, in terms of how resilience as well, and kanankara emotional safety hela in general. Let's wrap up the topic trauma. I would like us to talk about Father's Day and fatherhood. With that being said, ke batla go raya kere happy Father's Day. I realized that you are a present dad. Re ke tswa go bulela yana o tla live with your 2 boys and
my little animals. Yes.
On a Saturday. Most parents ho gongwe they want to have space, kana baya dibolong, kana they do whatever, maybe ga ba spend nako le bana. So Father's Day is tomorrow. And I would like to say happy Father's Day in advance. And all the fathers out there who are present, who are making an impact more banning and are engaged. We really want to say you are doing a commendable job. We see an impact and an improvement in society ya rona. Ye leng gore if re tswelela re dira, we can change lehatshe la rona, because presence and engagement ya fatherhood ya ena le impact ye tona, more upbringing kana child development. What do you have to say about that?
It is very true. A father, where we differ with the mother. Mothers are kind, they're nurturing, they're loving, they're very patient with kids, and they tend to understand the kind of nonsense about kids that we are not ready to understand. But the love of a father is discipline. When there's a father in the house, there will be discipline in that house. The kids will recognize that authority. When a father figure is not there or is totally disengaged, the kids will tend to be a little bit unruly. So we cannot undervalue, or we cannot really downplay the role that a father figure can play in the life of a child. There are roles that are gender sensitive when it comes to raising our kids, and some of these roles they are more relevant for the dad.
Yaka, as a father, when you look back or when you reflect, how would you say fatherhood has changed your life in terms of you being a dad right now? As an individual, akere ke dumela gore like re tswa ko traumeng, I would say. If re ka look back, and then what are the advantages of being a present dad in terms of behavior, kana how you navigate your everyday life? How has fatherhood changed or impacted your life?
Fatherhood has definitely made me more responsible. I have to model a behavior for my kids, for my boys. I can't just talk anyhow in front of them. And it has taught me to strike a balance between being nice and tough love. I have to know when it's time to be nice to the kids, but I also have to know when it's time to give tough love. One of the interesting things is I've had to always step in as a father figure to teach the kids to respect their mother. I've learned in life that if the kids can respect their mom, they can respect anybody. Kids back at the mabon. They spend a lot of time with her. She's soft, right? So with us, most of the time they fear us a little bit. So if it goes out of hand, I have to call them to order and say, you cannot talk to your mother like that. Or please, when your mother talks to you, obey her, listen. And not only your mother, even your teachers at school who are women, when you are dealing with them, make sure you are obedient. So definitely it's made me more mature, more responsible. It's made me a protector, a provider. It's made me somebody whom I have to think about, can I get a set of headphones for $2,000 for myself? Or am I going to have to go and buy a school uniform for the kids or whatever else that they may need? So it has definitely changed me so much. Yeah.
Yeah, when we spoke of softness earlier, as a single parent, it really made me relate because of late, I can't do this because I now have to, I have to wear the pants now in terms of discipline.
Yeah.
And it takes away the femininity in me
Yeah.
and that softness. So I always wish kana advocate for gore, even if relationships don't work out,
Yeah.
let's find a balance elong gore we can help support single mothers gore ba khone gore le bone ba nne soft, because tota out there khona go palwa ke botshelo because like you are saying, monna o tshwanetse go tsenya lentswana.
Yeah.
And when that voice is not there as a single parent, ke tshwanna ke gore ke le tsenye, and it becomes an everyday thing for me.
Yeah.
E be ke palwa ke go separate gore ha ke na le batho, me I'm not a man. Wa bona?
Oh, yeah.
So borre le tla intshwarela gore be ke tlisitse that topic on a message e leng gore I want to send a good happy Father's Day to men.
Yeah.
But I would really like to encourage kana wena coming from you o le motho a rre, o ka encourage yang a parent who is co-parenting e le motho wa rre, mme a sena le mme wa gagwe, mme a eletsa gore kana as a community re eletsa go nna le a whole child o e leng gore o healthy. We need to reduce the risk of them recovering from trauma.
I think let's have a co-parenting agreement that works. Let's agree that the father figure, how does he access the kids? Should it be weekly? Should it be fortnightly? Should it be monthly? If possible, let's write down that co-parenting agreement and let's make it work, so that the kids can have that father figure there. It's good for their mental health that there's a father figure. When kids grow up without a father figure, or even just one of the parents, they develop a wound of abandonment and rejection. To them, to their soul, the mind, the will, the emotions, interprets the absence of that father as abandonment and rejection. And it's a wound. It's a wound that has so many implications in the future. It will determine what kind of lover there will be. It will determine what kind of colleague they're going to be. Because when somebody has grown up with a wound of abandonment and rejection, in future they're going to become codependent. In future they're going to have unhealthy attachment styles. They're going to give too much of themselves in relationships, in marriage, to try to compensate for that void in childhood. So if a father avails himself, he's dealing with that so that the child does not develop that wound of abandonment and rejection. And like you say, as a mother, you can continue to be gentle, and he can bring in the voice of discipline when it's necessary. Yeah.
And also ke leka go encourage kana ke letsa gore re lo support. I see a lot mostly on social media bo re ba lela bo ya ka go tswa go le Father's Day yana bo mme ba gana ka bana and go sa kgathalesege gore re kgaogane jang ngwana o tlhoka rrago mo botshelong ngwana o tlhoka mmagwe mo botshelong. Let us learn to understand and differentiate that thing gore our fights between me and you as elders, let us not involve the children.
The kids, yes.
And tota, we are taking a lot from our children ka go palelwa ke go navigate our differences as adults. And it then reflects kana go spilela mo baneng, which now becomes a wound, like you are saying, it takes time, resources, like for instance, both therapy. Most, really realistic, most homes don't afford therapy.
Yeah.
And therapy, it basically means they are doomed. We are re dakina future ya bone la ha kana botlhale yang ko sekolong on the emotional side utlo go palelo. So now we have discovered the gap ye leng gore re ntse re saletse ko morago mo go yone a re ititeng ka thupana a ke bo re ba leng gore mme o go ganela ka ngwana go na le ditselana tse leng gore o ka di sala morago tse leng gore di ka gore kgantele. Yes, it may take time, but ultimately follow those guidelines kana those processes gore o kgone go nna le access to the child. And then le nna ke le a single mom ha ile gore gongwe re go na le somehow go nkimetsa go nna a good parent kana to show up as a healthy parent for my child. There are things they leng gore I can do them. Even the processes at times can be daunting and frustrating, but let's find time to follow those and remember ultimately gore we are doing it for ngwana we leng gore responsibility ya gagwe it lies on us.
Oh yes.
And learn to conflict, good to resolve a conflict really bagolo.
Yes.
I think one of the things tse leng gore really batsadi we are failing is to resolve conflicts.
Yes.
And also to build healthy relationships tse leng gore ga re phuaganye mo leng gore nna folk and it means gore sekai if a single mother kana a single dad, because there are single dads out there, ha struggle gongwe to make end meet ana le ngwana, it means that child is going to be exposed to heartbreaking things tse leng gore can really derail them in their lives and then change how they see lives and how they see their parents. So to play our role as parents and be parents. Let exercise that. Let us be also re kope mo modimong.
Oh yes.
Sengwe se leng gore ke etse tlhoko gore la ha re bua ka trauma re lebetse kana ga ra bua ka sone ke go kopa mo modimong.
Yes.
Nako tse dingwe re kgona go palelwa re di leke tsotlhe, therapy sa bereke, dipilisi di sa bereke, but nako tse dingwe ha o kopa mo modimong gore modimo ke a palelwa nthusa, modimo will come through for you.
Oh yes.
And also as a single parent, can I be it you, be it whoever, ha o kopa mo modimong gore modimo morolo o nnetseng o wa nkimela nthusa, he will give you solutions and at times to relieve.
Yes.
But at times it's to grow you. Let us focus on maybe the part of learning mostly, because nako tse dingwe modimo wants to grow you through your challenges.
Oh, yes.
And we tend to fail the lesson because we are dwelling too much on feeling sorry for ourselves, or why me, this. But on a good space, let us also learn to have community, a group of community support groups. I have a genuine friend on a bad day where my child I can say, hey, fully free, because realistically speaking, life therapy or maybe the tools that are expensive, the resources.
Yes.
Let us look for cheaper resources like re not closer, re nne le network ye neat, ye watertight, and build relationships I can come and break down and then offer a good safe space it's not only for women. Le borre la e tlhoka.
Yes.
Le ko di Sunday sokeng tsa lona tse, encourage kana start cultivating such. Don't only play football. Allow the emotional or the psychological part to come into place, and le embrace gore you hurt, you heal. And when you are not healed, we bleed on the wrong people.
Yeah.
We had innocent people like gompieno GVB cases di tsamaya go godimo. Re bolaya bana ba ba senang molato, kgantele we abuse each other, we use hurtful words. Yeah. With that being said, I would like to just say, fathers, really important. You are important to Mose Chabing.
Yeah.
You are builders. You provide security for the children. You show us direction, and you are a comfort space for everybody. Kore le mo leaders, men borre really lead re bomme. And then when you are lost, it means the whole community is lost.
Yeah.
So find yourself. We will support you. We will encourage you. And we can't do that when you don't communicate authentically. So help us to help you communicate and share. Re tle re share burden ya lona le rona, because collective problem solving thusa, because we reach a goal ka bonako ebile in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I don't know what you would like, if you have anything to dads who are struggling to be present to their children, but baeletsa, not because gore ga ba batle, go gongwe we fail to show up or be present because we don't know how to, kana ga rena the tools. So what can you say to somebody who is less privileged because of kana beilo mo seemong seo ke go tlhoka, mme a eletsa? O ka tsaya kae maele, o ka tsaya kae ditshetlana tsa gore a nne present mo ngwaneng?
I think it's an important question that you ask, but let's approach the matter holistically. Kgantele you did talk about, the caliber of mothers and women now. They have money, they're leaders in organizations, and sometimes because they have to multitask, sometimes they are in their feminine energy, but sometimes they are in their alpha energy. So I think one of the biggest tasks that the women have to deal with in relation to men is how do they find a balance between this alpha energy that comes with money and leadership and having to be an authority maybe as a single mother in relation to men, because they're between the genders where maybe men feel they're not respected, or they feel like women are trying to put their foot down, or they feel like women are trying to act like men. And this is where the issues of GBV come from, because sometimes if men run out of the words, they'll go for violence. But I think for women, to make it easy for these men whom you're saying are less privileged, but they need access to their kids, let's see how we can be more in touch with our femininity. Though we have the resources, though we are leaders, can we be in touch with our femininity? I think a lot of women now treat femininity as weakness. But femininity, if studied and understood and harnessed properly, it's a power for women. Okay? Megape, it's a very debatable issue, I admit, because some of the women, they have to lead. And sometimes leading in an organization or in a family is going to require that you be in control and you put your foot down in certain instances. And that's where the alpha comes in. But for mothers, don't fight battles that prevent this father from coming to see the kid. We've already said it creates mental health issues for the kids. Be easy. Don't make this guy feel unworthy. Don't emasculate him because he's poor or he doesn't have funds or whatever the story is. It doesn't change the fact that he's the father of these kids. And with or without those resources, the kids love him, they need him, and it's also good for their mental health. So I think let's try, if the mothers need to heal, may they heal, or if both parties need to heal, may we find a way to heal so that at the end of the day, these fathers can access their kids. It's very important. But their femininity, I think it's going to be our next topic next time. Let's zero in on
There's
it.
short
How
time.
do we balance that?
Yes.
With your leadership and just being a woman? That is the reason why, in fact, as I speak to you now, most relationships are failing. Most marriages are failing. In certain instances, it feels like there's alpha and alpha. They're supposed to be alpha and feminine. So those energies are competing for space, and relationships and marriages are falling apart.
Don't you think it's because earlier on I asked you about incorporating God? Don't you think the puzzle or the piece of the puzzle is because we are failing to acknowledge that? In summary, in closing.
That could definitely be part of it, because I carry in the Bible, women are encouraged to submit. One of my best friends was saying to me, if he tries to correct his girlfriend, she's gonna say, "Oh, so you trying to correct me?" Says, "Okay, let me get my car keys. Let me go to my house." So it's an issue of, you have a car, I have a car. You have a house, I have my house. If you wanna correct me, then I'm going to my house. That's it. So that's the reality of what we're dealing with in this day and age. And it has discouraged so many men. Some men are running away from the fights that they're having with women. It's not like I think there was a gentleman on Ampula, every time, he's a single father. Every time bana ko go ma bone, every time that he drops them, there's going to be a huge fight in front of the kids until the kids want to go back with him. They're like, "Oh, daddy, let's go back with you." You know. So let's say between the two, let's bring in a conflict sponge, an elder person, a therapist to sit us down, so that we can help people to heal and help them to cooperate and take care of what needs to be taken care of. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Kingdom, for such an insightful conversation and the nuggets tse leng gore o tla ka tsone from a professional perspective, because I think at times when we just apply ourselves, re sa tsenye behavior kana psychology mo teng, we tend to take certain things for granted and dismiss how people feel, the maybe re sa leke go dira problem solving, or maybe check gore, oh, motho o kile a na ntse ya ntse yana but ile re tsamaela hale go ne ga change yana go changeile eng. So it really was an eye-opening for me as an individual, and also I think for my listeners as well. If we listen to this content with intention, we are not saying we are perfect or we are looking for perfection, but we are trying to correct dilo tse eleng gore re ntse re sa di dire sentle, di affecta our well-being, di affecta bana ba rona le rona hela ka re tshedisanyang ka teng sentle. Ga gona po yo batlang go tlhwa a go gagogana le o mongwe tsatsi le letsatsi, mme ha o nna hatshe o itsa stock, when you reflect every day o bona gore hey, go hale mme ha ke a buisa Kingdom sentle kana re ne re sa tshwanna gore re dire yana. It also helps gore re kope maitshwarelo, like bana ba o reng go lwa hape le ga bone, their parents le bone, they owe those children an apology gore it was wrong of us to be fighting in front of you. Re kopa maitshwarelo, and also let's see a change or an improvement after that apology. So with that being said, I would like to say, keep doing what you are doing out there. I'm inspired, I'm encouraged, and if we could consume that content with intention. I'm not saying I'm perfect or whatever, but Tota, every day you make me see how if rekatsa one day at a time, we can really heal from our struggles and we can help others to be healthy leaders, healthy partners, healthy parents. So that will realize no man is an island. And thank you for coming. And Batswana ko gae ke lebogela gore e be lo lebeletse Blossom with Boi. Can you like the content? Can you share and also engage? Because this is meant to improve us and also to help maybe ha go ka wela in a policy maker kana somebody who elong gore ba mo maybe ba hetola melao. It can help us in terms of improvement. So Tota, let's not shy away from having authentic conversations. They can be thought-provoking without stigmatization and stereotypes behind them. Thank you for watching. Until we see you next time. Bye.